Hello everyone, and welcome to a very long time update to the channel. To basically address the elephant in the room, I just didn't have time to do one in, I think, October. And basically just decided not to go ahead with it instead, because I wrote an update post, I think the following month, of all the stuff that I was doing. And that was kind of it. Like, I didn't really feel the need to do any more updates after that. And just got into a habit of not doing it. But I asked people on Patreon if they miss it, and they said yes. And so, you know, I'm just going to keep doing them again. They're not particularly hard work to do, and it's not like, you know, it's not difficult to make either. I just babble for like, 20-30 minutes and then put some game footage in front of it, which is again seconds worth of work, and then hit render and go away and do something else. So I'm going to talk about some of the more important things. Hopefully the volume is alright, it looks a bit loud. I'm going to talk about some of the more important things. The big looming thing for the channel right now is the fact that I'm actually moving to Canada. And I don't live in Canada. So I live in the South UK, so I'm gonna be moving to Canada in the next 5 months, which is obviously going to shake up the operation a fair bit, but hopefully it'll all work out in terms of getting videos done. Hopefully the moving to Canada works out as well, because yeah, there's that. So like, it's going to be a weird year, but I'm just going to keep on doing what I normally do and see how well I can keep doing that, essentially, with stuff moving. Yeah, so there might be, dropout periods. I'm also still working on like a well, I'm not really working on it. I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not working on figuring out a better schedule. I'm just gonna make videos when I want to make videos, and that'll be kind of that. Just because I really had kind of had enough with YouTube from I'm going to say, like, just drawing to the end of February. I made a big mistake, and that was, I said that I was going to take a break after last year's Halloween, and then just didn't. And decided to keep on pushing myself to keep going, and then I ended up with a bunch of games that were difficult to do. And there was just lots of other stuff going on at the same time that was tiring or frustrating, and yeah, also one of the things that's going to be good about moving to Canada is just the fact that the environment that I'm in currently, that I have been working in for ages, it's not bad, but it's not as good for me as living in Canada was briefly. So that's why I'm going to be doing that, really. So that's that. Moving on, I have a lot of different things to talk about from all the stuff that's going on. So, first, I said that I was going to do Resident Evil 9 when I came back, and yeah, I had already done Species Unknown, most of that, so that's why that video got done first. Well, the problem has been that my computer has a problem. I can't pin down what the thing is, but sometimes it just resets itself, which has been really, really bad for trying to do Resident Evil 9, because it seems to really like resetting itself while I'm playing Resident Evil 9. I think we figured this out last time because I was talking to a couple of my friends to try and, pinpoint the problem. We think it's either the power supply or the motherboard, one of those two. But yeah, it's frustrating. Basically, I ended up playing the opening, 10-15 minutes of Resident Evil 9 a good 10-something times, which has ruined my immersion and appreciation for what is probably like the most, well, so far, the most frightening part of the game. I've only played about an hour and a half, I want to say, into it, maybe 2 hours. I'm got to the part just after Grace gets saved by Leon and then gets to wander around the big area. And that's the last time that I played it. Just because the computer's too temperamental to reliably play the game, and obviously if I'm doing a recording and stuff like that, the last thing I really want to have to do is play the same thing over and over again, because either the computer reset or the recording messed up, or a combination of the two, because that's likely to what happens if the computer is just going to reset itself while I'm like, playing something or recording something. So yeah, that one's on hold for a while, and I've already taken ages to start doing it, so yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I guess I'm just going to have to replace parts of the computer and hope that that's the solution. It hasn't really done it with anything else, which is frustrating, and I don't think there's like a history of Resident Evil 9 causing people's computers to reset. So like, I'm pretty sure it's just because of like the graphical intensity of the game or whatever, is like, you know, because obviously I want it to look good, but I'm also asking the computer to record itself at the same time, so like, I might just be pushing it too hard. Right, so that's that. I'm going to talk about some of the ones that I haven't mentioned very much and basically talk about the status on them as well. So Tower of Mask is a dungeon crawler horror game, and I think it's kind of loose on the horror. I really love the atmosphere and like the sort of like the creepy kind of story, even though the story isn't really something that I've properly read up on. Or like there isn't much to read up on, I don't think, but it's more like, you know, all the creepy combination of masks that do different things and all the people that are living inside this gigantic tower or whatever. And I've basically got to the point where I just didn't feel like playing any more of it because it's really going on. So I was tied between writing something about it and just saying, you know, it's pretty good as far as I played. And I think that's possibly as much as I'm willing to go on it, just because, not even because I don't like dungeon crawlers. I do like dungeon crawlers. I've just kind of got burnt out playing Tower of Mask. And it's not like some of the other ones that I've played, because I ended up playing oh my god, I forgot the name of the game. Legend of Grimrock, and that's very similar. And I beat the first game, but I never ended up getting too far into the second because it was too big and too dense, and that was just kind of the problem with that. So yeah, there's that. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Forgotten Memories, I've barely started playing, but I did get it because someone recommended getting it, so I gave it a little go, and it's kind of creepy, and that's really all I've got to say. I have some recording of it, but I don't have anything really substantial to talk about. This is just a point of me saying I have started that. Kletka. Me and Ruby played a lot of Kletka. However, we never really got very far ever in the game. Ruby still really likes it. However, I am less enthusiastic to continue playing Kletka just because I find it too difficult to get far, and then it doesn't feel like we've experienced much of the game. It's not like Lethal Company where you can just like, you know, get enough money quite early to like go to some of the rarer moons and explore that kind of stuff. This feels more like you have to, you know, not die to get the good stuff to continue further into the game to see more of the game, you know? So you have to be able to do that and live long enough to do it. You know, I think you probably can just take the lift straight down as far as possible, but like, I think that would probably result in you dying the second you got out the lift. But yeah, there's not a great deal for me to talk about in that one besides game's kind of hard, and we didn't really find anything too scary in it, mostly kind of, you know, because of the levels that we were playing at, like the early floors nothing really much happens on them. I didn't understand a lot of the mechanics even after playing it for ages, so like there's that too. Yeah. Among Ashes, I was recommended to by someone on Discord, wanted me to have a go at that, and I played that for a couple hours, and I didn't get very far in it, and it's okay, but it's also, the problem with all of these, basically, besides RE9, is the fact that I was already burnt out when I started playing these. So like when I started getting into them, I got to a point where, you know, like even like the slightest bit of resistance, and I was like, I really don't feel like doing this, and then just put it down. I basically, before, I want to say mid last week, I hadn't played any horror games for literally since I made that video saying that I was going to stop. So that's been about a month and a half, 2 months. Just because I had no incentive, or I had like no enthusiasm to play them, so like that was that. AILA or AILA or however you want to pronounce that. It's a unique game, and it has graphical glitches, which was a real pain because they're in this section where I think it's the part where you're supposed to be talking to the AI. And its hair is just glitching out really badly, which is why I remember more about it than I think anything else. It was a very linear sort of like, go here, do this. You know, it didn't feel like there was... It's not like a Resident Evil run around the mansion and look for stuff. It's very just sort of like go in a straight line, follow this specific set of things, and spooky things happen. And again, I don't really remember too much good about it. It was hyped up, I think, by somebody really wanted me to play it, but it didn't stand out that much to me at the time. But again, I'm gonna attempt to get back to all of these, or at least, you know, write something about them, or write them off and, you know, end my work on them in a way. So yeah, there's that. Then we have all the games that were sent to me, and oh boy, have people sent a lot of games to me. I'm getting like, my email, I don't even know if I'm going to bother reading most of my emails anymore, just because of how many games that aren't horror games are sent to me. Like, most of them don't even have the word horror in anywhere in the email. So it's like, I know that I'm part of a mailing list now, but it's just really getting to the point of just, who cares? Like, I'm not going to be sitting here reviewing, like, you know, games that aren't anything to do with the channel. Like, they use the prefix for the channel, or the old prefix for the channel, which was horror review. So they go, "Hi, horror review, would you like to play, you know, Harvest Valley?" And it's like, no. So yeah, there's some of them also just send me like a demo to review, and I don't have time for demos. Like, I've only really got time for like the full games, so like there's that. However, I have been still accepting some of the games just because some of them actually seem interesting, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of them in a big upcoming video, which I'm just going to call, remember what I did last year or this year, some games that were sent to me. Sorry, no, that was some games I played recently. But these ones are going to be called Some Games that were sent to me, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, or whatever in the future. And I'm still working through them, but I have quite a lot already. I have played 1, 2, 3... I've got 5 games currently, so I want to get to the golden 7 or 8, and then just make the video. And of the ones that I have played so far, most of them weren't good. And I'm really disappointed about this, because I would rather be like, wow, look at this cool thing that I found, than be like, well, here's a bunch of things to avoid. And I don't mean like that they're objectively bad. Most of them are like okay, just none of them were particularly good horror games. I played through Dark Atlas Infernum, which took forever. And I don't think I made it to the end of that one, just because it is just a very tedious game to me. Basically, you scour the environment for items, and it is some of the busiest environments I've ever seen. It's like those old point-and-click find the object games, except you're running around a 3D area. And I liked that to begin with, until they started introducing the monster that instantly killed you. Which... yeah, the signaling on the biggest complaint I have about that game is just how bad the game is at telling you not only if you're in view of the monster, but also how close the monster is to you, and whether the monster is actively hunting you or not. Because sometimes the monster is just in the area and it's not hunting you, and the screen makes a thing and you can't tell whether it's, you know, anything's coming or not. And sometimes there's no warning and the monster goes straight through a wall, because it can travel through walls, of course, and kills you instantly. And then sets you back to the last thing, which then means you have to go and do all the stuff that you did again. Which, yep, not a big fan of that, actually. That wasn't very fun. There's that. Then Radiance of Souls had some actually good jump scares in it. Like 1 or 2 were actually pretty good. It did try a lot of things, and most of them didn't work. But like those jump scares actually got me, so like, you know, I appreciate that at least. The story, however, good God, do not ask me to repeat the story. I don't think I could. It was all about chasing your brother, and then, you know, it just spins wildly out of control from there, to the point where like there was a plot twist at the very end of it that had me just scratching my head, going like, oh, all right, okay, because it just came out of nowhere. After that, I played The Black Whale, which was only about 20 minutes, and it was by far the most depressing game I've ever played in my life. Where, to spoil the story of this 20-minute game, life is depressing, you get addicted to drugs, and then you die. And that's it. That's the whole game. And it didn't really have any horror elements in it either, which was another baffling thing. I was like, I thought it looked so much like a horror game from what I was sent, but when I played it, I was like, oh, there's nothing in this is scary. Then there was Giant Corridor. That was an anomaly game. And I am fully booked on anomaly games. I've had enough. I've eaten too much anomaly games and I've barely played any. That one was possibly, I think, besides Robot Anomaly was definitely like harder. But this one has you basically walking through a street and then turning a corner and walking along another street, and then you reach the end of this thing and you have to say whether you saw an anomaly or not. But like literally most of the time I didn't know what I was looking for at all, and anytime anything was slightly off, like a person was just standing there or a door was there for no reason, that was just an anomaly. Like the anomalies were the least interesting, I think, anomalies I have seen in a game. I played the game for a full 10 minutes, which was all I was willing to dedicate to it, because I'd done like 20 loops of this, you know, finding the anomaly, and only found 2 anomalies. I was just sort of like, you know, there's too little interest in what's happening to continue playing, basically. Like, the idea of an anomaly game feels like it should be based around, like, at least have like a short environment, like, you know, the Exit 8, where you have to properly scan what's in this environment to see what's there. But like Giant Corridor or Giant Corridor there's loads of things down there, but like most of it doesn't stand out very much, or I will be staring at the environments for ages only to find that there's nothing there, because most of the time I said there wasn't anything there and I was right. And when there was something there, it was so painfully obvious that, you know, I couldn't have avoided it. I died once in the game, I think, by opening a strange door, and a JPEG of a ghost came out and got me, and that was kind of it. It wasn't, yeah, I'm not a huge, I hate like, you know, putting down people's games like this, but like, most of them didn't stand out as like something that had a lot of thought put into them. Besides like Dark Atlas Infernum, someone really went out of their way. The set designer or whatever on Dark Atlas Infernum deserves a raise. Then the last one was Vartio, and Vartio was pretty good, or Vartio, I'm not exactly sure. Vartio was basically just walking through a forest 3 times, but it felt like it had a sense of progression. It felt like it had an actual threat, and it was really, really good in terms of its just sound design and stuff like that, where it barely showed you anything because of I mean, you can see the graphics, they're on the screen, but it felt like, you know, there was an actual threat in the woods and you didn't know what it was until the very end. And it was good. It wasn't very long. I think it was about 20 minutes to play the whole thing, and that was great, honestly. It was like, it wasn't incredible, and it didn't, you know, but it was pretty good. It was like the only pretty good one that I think I played. And that's about it. Yeah, I don't know. That's all the ones that I did so far. So I've just been doing the most recent. Oh god, and Moon Knight Shift. Oh god, I forgot Moon Knight Shift. That was also in there. That was a really weird game that, that felt like nonsense. That actually felt like, you know, that felt like playing through somebody's dream. But it was very confounding to try and understand what was going on in the story, and some things were so needlessly specific for no reason. And then there was, I mean, it was there was a reason for some of them. Like you worked in it as like a kiosk, you know, kind of game where it was like a night shift at a place where you gave people food. And that was like 2% of the game, where the rest of it was just wandering around talking to people. And the people were kind of weird. There was stuff that was happening that didn't seem to have, like, they didn't go anywhere. And I don't really know how to describe it. It's such a bizarre game to me. And there was like a turning point again where they were trying to reveal this massive plot twist, and the plot twist didn't make any sense. And, you know, there were just too many parts in it that I found laugh out loud funny to really like find frightening in the slightest. And they tried a couple of jump scares, and that was about it. It was again really hard to just focus on what was going on because it was just so weird. You work with a 6'8" co-worker who has a passion for dancing, and it was really weird. It was a really weird game. Yeah, I have a few more to get through before I want to hit that magic 8, and I really hope that I get some that are better than the ones I've had so far, besides Varsho. Varsho's pretty good. That's that. The podcast. So, me and my partner Julie have been looking at doing a podcast. She thinks it's a good idea. Several other people suggested it was a good idea too. It's not going to be a main focus. It really isn't. It's just going to be something fun to do. And, as you can tell, when I really start getting into talking about things that I'm interested in as opposed to like, you know, silly games like I have been today, I can rattle on about stuff for ages. And if I get, you know, that kind of engagement from somebody else, because I wouldn't be able to hold a podcast on my own. I'm very, very bad at like organizing my thoughts in a straight line for when I'm talking out loud. But for this, we've had a bunch of ideas that we were going to turn into about 20-minute sort of things. We haven't really worked out the details of it yet. We're kind of hazy. But we had a bunch of ideas for stuff that we could talk about. And I'll run you through the list real quick of what we got so far, but like, you know, obviously it's subject to change, and you never know, the thing may not happen at all. It really just depends on free time and whether we think it'll be worth it. So the first one was horror from real events, and there are like, I have a lot of mixed opinions on things from horror, you know, that takes place from real events. Part of me really doesn't like the fact that the Dyatlov Pass incident, which was a tragedy from 1955 or sometime around then, where a bunch of Russian hikers succumbed to a strange series of events, which I believe they've explained away now, but it was a really big mystery for a really long time. They all died up in those mountains somewhere. I can't remember the exact... It was called the Dyatlov Pass incident after the main guy who was the leader of the expedition there. I've watched several videos on it, but like, you know, I don't remember all the details. Anyway, there's a movie called the Dyatlov... Wait, is it called the Dyatlov Pass incident? Or Devil's Pass or something? It had a name change at some point. And the other one is obviously Kolat, which is a game specifically about going into those same mountains and experiencing something else. And I've always found it a little kind of disrespectful to the people who literally died to, you know, to fuel a story on something else. There's probably several others that I can think of that have done the same sort of thing. I'm just not a huge fan of, like, retreading the horrors of real life and turning them into a video game, especially with an outlandish story like the film and the game. Because the game it mentions the hikers that went up into those hills, but it doesn't have the same kind of, you know, it fills in the blanks itself with, admittedly, a very bizarre tale of some sort of entity out there, because of course. And the same for the movie. I can't remember exactly what happens in the movie. I've got it, but I haven't seen it in like 7 or 8 years. It's not a particularly memorable one, but yeah, it was all kind of just, I don't know, like, I find that kind of stuff disrespectful. I'm sure, like, I mean, even if you look at like the stuff like the World War I and stuff like that, people died in World War I, but it doesn't feel as bad or as specific as stuff like the Dyatlov Pass incident does, because of how, you know, it's a small group of people who you can name. Like, you can name a lot of people that died in World War I, but like, you know, none of them are based specifically off none of the games, like, you know, Amnesia the Bunker or Trenches or Ad Infinitum or whatever, are all based off of like specific people who really existed, you know. So I think that's the dividing line. Anyway, I'm already going on about the podcast, so moving on. I also have a video about infrasound. I love talking about infrasound. I have lots of examples of fun stuff with infrasound. That's definitely a video. You know, anytime you ask me to talk about sound design and horror, I am in. That's my jam. Color grading was one Julie proposed, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can actually do with color grading in terms of, like, you know, making an environment feel worse. Like, I mean, in a way you can bring back stuff like Fallout 3 and how green Fallout 3 looked, or is it... Yeah, Fallout 3 looked green and Fallout New Vegas looked orange because desert. But yeah, there's that, and like you can talk about how intense the contrast is and stuff like Outlast and Emily Wants to Play and those kind of things that really draw deliberate shadows and make, you know, dark areas seem really dark, and film grain and stuff in games like Silent Hill and again Outlast. You know, I think there's a lot of, you know, stuff like that that all adds up to the general vibe of stuff, you know, and if you remove those things, then it doesn't necessarily make it worse, but like it's a different feeling altogether. Lighting, again, basically part of the same thing. We might mix those two together. Movement, we were talking about how the speed of a character can really affect how capable they feel and how capable enemies feel in comparison. So like one of my favorite examples is from Mists of Aden, where there's a chase sequence with a monster that absolutely cannot catch you unless you stop moving. And all you have to do is walk backwards. And because you're in such a position that you can see the monster, and it's right in front of you, because you're supposed to walk around a corner, and then it comes around the corner and you immediately start backpedaling. Like, because you're looking at it, it's not frightening because you can see that it can't catch you. So, yeah, that was another thing about movement. We were going to talk about soundtracks and how soundtracks have become a bit more generic nowadays, besides like very specific ones. I just like talking about horror game soundtracks. I have a ton of them on the computer for videos, and yeah, that was going to be a video on its own. And then the more interesting one, the most interesting one that I think I was going to make a video out of on its own was horror game cultures, in terms of like horror that comes from different countries and different backgrounds or different folklore, and I thought that was easily the most interesting one to talk about. And because like there's examples like Detention and Home Sweet Home, and even stuff like, you know, Stalker technically comes from a different culture, but it's obviously it's sci-fi rather than like the sort of like supernatural folk horror stuff like that. And that was compelling enough to make me think about writing a video separately to that instead of just talking about it on the podcast, because obviously I want to make videos out of the majority of these if I haven't already. And obviously I've talked about infrasound before, and I've definitely talked about lighting and color grading in different things. Movement, I'm sure I picked up in like the difficulty video, but like there's a lot of that stuff too. There's also the Is It Horror, which was going to be a series that I was going to do. And I did start doing parts on it. Like I've played through Limbo, and I was going to usually try and do about 2 or 3 games per video and talk about what defines them as horror games, or if they're horror games, and that was kind of going to be the main focus of that. And yeah, I think that's about it for all I really had for the podcast. We had a bunch of ideas, and we haven't obviously put anything into action yet, but they're in there. And now there's the big videos that I'm supposed to be working on. If you're on Patreon, you've already seen the script for Death Mechanics. I think I'm going to be tweaking that a bit more because I'm not quite pleased with how that is. Otherwise, I would have already made that video by now. But yeah, there's that. The Death Mechanics video is kind of... I don't know, it's not as deep as I would have liked, and it doesn't contain some of the stuff in it that I wanted to talk about. Like I was going to try and talk about how to make a character's death impactful instead of just necessarily frightening. So like frightening is really what I was going for in the video, but like how do you make a character's death feel impactful is more of a story-based thing, and I'm not sure if I was going to put that in the same video or separate it, but like that's something I want to talk about eventually, just because of like things like Until Dawn, where like a character suddenly dies like halfway through the thing, and how do you make that feel impactful? And you know, do you really care when like characters die in horror films when most of them feel so disposable? Like, does it matter too much when characters die in any of like the Friday the 13th films? And how would you write them in a way that would make it feel more useful? Because like most of the time in Friday the 13th, you're rooting for Jason more than anybody else. Like, you know, the survivors are usually so unlikable that Jason's like, you know, oh yeah, get him, Jason. So yeah, there's that. And the final one is about ghosts, and ghosts has been such a pain. I think ghost is one of the reasons why I stopped doing YouTube for a bit as well. It has been... I've rewritten it about 3 times, and it's just because I'm trying to encapsulate a lot into it. Like, I have had, like, an interest... I don't believe in ghosts, to point out. I have an interest in ghosts for a very, very long time. And I wanted to talk about lots of, like, combining, like, stories and real life and, you know, movies and games, obviously. And what I was going to basically... I'm trying to work a way to incorporate all of them into a video about, you know, haunted houses and ghosts and stuff like that. And it was going to start with, like, you know, this is a ghost, and basically the main problem has been that stringing them all together in a way that not only makes sense but has a sort of progression to it has been really hard, because you're kind of divided immediately by, like, whether you believe in ghosts or whether you don't. And if you don't believe in ghosts, then you can start with, like, you know, the difference between knowing something's haunted and not knowing something's haunted because of stuff like phasmophobia, and then the real life ghost hunting kind of things, where, you know, if you go into if you watch, like, I think it's Ghost Theory, the name of the YouTube channel that I was using as an example, where these 2 guys basically go into a house and literally usually experience nothing. Nothing ever happens. I don't mean to put down the channel, or, like, actually I want to say the channel's really good because of that, because they're not afraid to go into these spooky ass houses and find absolutely nothing and still make an entertaining video out of it, which I think is incredible. However, on the opposite side of the scale, when you go into something like, you know, phasmophobia, it's going to be haunted. You know that immediately. There is a ghost in there. The ghost is there immediately, and there's loads of different things to talk about in terms of, like, how the ghost affects the environment, how the ghost deals with you, you know, and because there's so many different iterations and all these different kind of ways that ghosts do stuff, like Fatal Frame, the ghosts actively attack you, but, like, only sometime. I mean, you have to be caught in a specific moment for a ghost to try and kill you in phasmophobia, because most of the time they're just throwing stuff around and turning the taps on and off and stuff like that. And in movies, it's not always the same either. I've only found, like, a couple of ghost films. I wanted to find some more of them to watch. And then in real life, you got nothing. So, like, it's kind of, you know, there's loads of stuff on YouTube that's obviously, like, faked. And then there was a bunch of ghost stories that I had from a book called Tales of the Grid Square, which is really fun. Well, that I was going to incorporate, and the YouTube video called Ghosts on the London Underground. And that was really good as well. And I wanted to just create a sort of, you know, an overview of how real life and movies and stuff compares to how they appear in games. And it's just been a real hard time trying to piece all of this together in a way that feels cohesive. So at the moment, I'm on the plan of, like, creating sort of start off with just the haunting, and then talk about how hauntings are in, like, you know, films, and how hauntings are in Tales of the Grid Square, and and yeah, it really just kind of gets to a point where if I get, like, a couple of sentences or, like, a couple of paragraphs that feel like they have a natural progression to them, that I'm actually going somewhere with what I'm talking about, then I consider that a good hour or so of work. It's been one that I really, really want to do, but God, is it a pain to write. So yeah, there's that. And that's really it. I've hit the end of the list. That's all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. But yeah. So sorry for the lack of updates. I have been in and out of it, and it's been a stressful time, and yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing something, but again, it's whatever happens to get done first of all these projects that I've started that I'm working on. I hope everyone is doing good in my absence, And I was pleased to see the overwhelming support when I posted Species Unknown the other day. That was really nice. And the support when I said that I was leaving. I was expecting more resistance, I guess. But no, it's really endearing to go through all the comments and stuff and read the nice things that people have written. And what's nice about it is they are always nice things, despite, how it feels like I'm letting people down sometimes when I do this. Like, I know that I'm not, but that's how it feels. Anyway, that's enough of that. I will see you all next time I have to get back to work. Bye.